Your special person took your photo to a psychic, and they cried tears of blood when they heard that you are my beloved child. Your special person never intended for that visit to change everything. They carried your photograph to a psychic hoping for a simple answer about your connection, but the moment the image touched the table, the room fell unnaturally silent. The candles flickered without a breeze. The psychic's expression changed from confidence to unmistakable fear. They stared at your picture as though they had recognized someone they never expected to see again. Then something impossible happened. Tears mixed with streaks of blood rolled down their face as they whispered, "No. This cannot be." Your special person froze. Every question they had prepared vanished. The psychic refused to touch the photograph again, insisting that some truths arrive only when the time is right. But what could possibly make someone react that way? Don't skip. The answer isn't what anyone expected, and every second from this moment pulls your special person deeper into a mystery that has been following both of you far longer than either of you realizes. Unable to leave without answers, your special person demanded to know what had caused such terror. The psychic remained silent for several long moments before asking one strange question instead. Has this person survived situations they should never have escaped? Memories rushed through your special person's mind. Coincidences. Impossible timing. Doors that opened at the exact moment they needed them. People who suddenly appeared only to disappear again without explanation. None of it had made sense before. The psychic slowly nodded as if each memory confirmed an invisible pattern. This photograph carries the mark of someone whose story was never ordinary, they murmured. Many people mistake them for someone living an ordinary life, but that is the greatest illusion. Your special person's heartbeat grew louder than the silence surrounding them. Stay till the end, because the next words forced them to question everything they thought they knew about you. The psychic finally looked up, their trembling voice barely above a whisper. The reason I cried is not because this person brings destruction. It is because they unknowingly carry a destiny that awakens forgotten truths wherever they go. The room became unbearably still. They explained that certain lives leave invisible echoes, and anyone who is spiritually sensitive can feel those echoes without understanding them. Your special person couldn't decide whether to feel relieved or terrified. If this was true, why had no one told you? Why had every important relationship in your life seemed to arrive through impossible coincidences? The psychic refused to answer directly. Instead, they carefully slid your photograph back across the table and warned, when this person discovers who they truly are, everyone connected to them will be forced to confront secrets they have spent years hiding. Something huge is waiting for you, because your special person walked out carrying your photo, but they also carried a warning they still haven't found the courage to tell you. My beloved child no longer echoed through your special person's thoughts. Instead, one question drowned out everything else. If the psychic had truly seen something extraordinary in you, why did they become so afraid to say it aloud? The answer refused to leave them in peace. That very night, they took your photograph out again, studying every detail as though it might reveal a secret hidden in plain sight. The longer they looked, the more they remembered small moments that had never made sense before. People who unexpectedly confessed their deepest feelings to you. Strangers who trusted you within minutes of meeting you. Even those who disliked you at first often found themselves unable to explain why they kept thinking about you afterward. Were these just coincidences, or were they pieces of a much larger puzzle? Don't look away now, because your special person was about to discover that the psychic had intentionally left out the most unsettling part of the reading. The following morning, unable to ignore the mystery any longer, your special person returned to the psychic's house. The front door remained closed for several minutes before it slowly creaked open. The psychic looked exhausted, as though they had not slept since the previous meeting. Before your special person could ask a single question, the psychic quietly said, "I knew you would come back." They disappeared into another room and returned holding an old journal covered in faded symbols. With trembling hands, they opened a page that had clearly been written many years earlier. Without mentioning your name, the passage described someone whose presence would quietly transform the lives of others without even realizing it. It also warned that many people would misunderstand this person, fearing what they could never fully explain. Your special person's eyes widened. The description matched you with unsettling precision. But one final sentence on the page made the psychic immediately close the journal before another word could be read. The silence that followed felt heavier than any explanation. Your special person pleaded to see the rest of the page, but the psychic slowly shook their head. "Some truths cannot be revealed all at once," they whispered. "If I read the final lines before the proper moment, the people surrounding this person may begin making choices they can never undo." Those words sent a chill through the room. Who were these people? What decisions were waiting to be made? And why did the psychic seem more concerned about everyone around you than about you yourself? As your special person prepared to leave, the psychic spoke one final sentence that stopped them at the doorway. "The day this person remembers what everyone else has forgotten, someone very close to them will finally reveal why they spent so many years watching from the shadows." Nothing prepared your special person for what happened after those final words. They left the psychic's house believing the mystery had reached its limit, but before they even made it home, their phone rang from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm but urgent. "Do not ignore the photograph," the stranger said. "Look behind it." The call ended before another question could be asked. With shaking hands, your special person turned the picture over. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then, under the light, faint markings began to appear. Marks that had never been noticed before. They weren't random scratches. They formed a pattern the psychic had drawn earlier in that old journal. How could the same symbol exist in two completely different places? Stay with this story, because the next discovery changed the direction of everything. Unable to dismiss the coincidence, your special person returned home and searched through old boxes, hoping to find anything connected to your past. Hidden between forgotten photographs and faded letters was an envelope that had never been opened. It contained a single handwritten note with no signature, only one chilling sentence: "When the one who carries the forgotten mark enters your life, protect them before seeking answers." Your special person felt their pulse race. The letter had been written years before the two of you had even met. It was impossible. Yet every clue pointed toward you. Suddenly, memories that once seemed ordinary began fitting together like pieces of a puzzle: unexpected meetings, impossible timing, and strange moments when danger disappeared without explanation. None of it looked accidental anymore. It looked planned. That evening, your special person made one final visit to the psychic, carrying both the photograph and the mysterious note. The psychic's face turned pale the moment they saw the envelope. They refused to touch it, stepping back as though it carried a memory they wished had stayed buried forever. After a long silence, they whispered, "Now I understand why the vision ended in blood. This isn't about who this person was, it's about who they are about to become." Your special person demanded the truth, but the psychic only pointed toward the door and said, "There is someone else who has been watching this story unfold from the beginning. They know the final piece, and they have already decided it's time for your special person to hear it." Before sunrise, your special person could no longer ignore the feeling that someone was quietly guiding every step of this journey. They followed the psychic's final instruction to an old place on the edge of town, where time itself seemed to have slowed. Waiting there was an elderly stranger holding a small wooden box wrapped in faded cloth. Without asking a single question, the stranger looked directly at your special person and softly said, "I wondered how long it would take before this photograph found its way here." Those words sent a chill through the air. How could this person already know about the picture? And why did they seem completely unsurprised by everything that had happened? Don't look away now, because the box they carried had been sealed for years, waiting for one moment, and one person. The stranger carefully opened the box, revealing dozens of old photographs collected over many decades. Families, travelers, children, ordinary faces from different generations. Yet every single photograph had one thing in common. Somewhere in the background, almost hidden from view, appeared the same mysterious symbol your special person had discovered behind your picture. It wasn't a coincidence. It had been quietly appearing throughout history, unnoticed by almost everyone. The stranger explained that only a handful of people had ever recognized the pattern, and those who did were forever changed by what they eventually learned. Then they picked up your photograph, studied it in silence, and whispered, "This is the first time the symbol has appeared so clearly. That means the waiting is almost over." Your special person felt the weight of those words settle deep inside, realizing the mystery was growing larger than either of them had imagined. As the morning light broke through the clouds, the stranger handed your special person a folded page covered in handwritten notes. "Read only the first line," they warned. "The rest must wait." With trembling hands, your special person unfolded the paper and found just 7 words written across the top: "The hidden guardian has finally returned in human form." Their heart nearly stopped. Was the psychic trying to say that you were the hidden guardian? Or was someone else connected to you carrying that role? Before another question could be asked, the stranger closed the box, looked toward the horizon, and quietly said, "The person who feared this truth the most has already started moving, and they're much closer to both of you than you realize." The stranger's warning refused to leave your special person's mind. Every familiar face suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every recent conversation carried a hidden meaning they had never noticed before. They replayed the past few months over and over, searching for the one person who always seemed to appear whenever your life took an unexpected turn. At first, nothing stood out. Then one memory returned with startling clarity. Someone had quietly asked unusual questions about you: where you spent your time, what inspired you, and why people were naturally drawn toward you. At the time, those questions seemed harmless. Now they felt carefully planned. Your special person realized this mystery had never been about discovering who you were. It had always been about discovering who had been watching you from the shadows. Stay with this story, because the next clue uncovered a secret that had remained hidden for years. Determined to find the truth, your special person returned to the old journal the psychic had refused to finish reading. This time, the final page slipped loose from the binding as though it had been waiting to be found. Across the top were the words, "Only reveal this when the signs begin to awaken." Beneath it was a description of someone whose presence exposed deception without speaking a single word. The journal claimed that hidden motives could not survive around this person for long. Lies unraveled. Masks slipped. Long-buried secrets surfaced on their own. Suddenly, your special person understood why certain people had drifted away from you while others had become fiercely loyal. It wasn't chance. Your presence seemed to force people to reveal who they truly were. But one sentence at the bottom of the page was partially erased, leaving behind only a haunting fragment. The greatest test begins when the closest heart, the rest had vanished. Before your special person could make sense of the missing words, a soft knock echoed through the room. Standing outside was the psychic, their face pale but no longer filled with fear. They carried a sealed envelope marked with a single instruction, "Open only after the next sign appears." Your special person asked what the next sign meant, but the psychic simply shook their head. "You won't have to search for it," they whispered. "It will find both of you when the time is impossible to ignore." As they turned to leave, they paused for one final moment and quietly added, "When that envelope is opened, the name everyone has been afraid to speak will finally be revealed. And nothing between you and your special person will ever feel the same again." The sealed envelope remained untouched for days, yet it seemed to grow heavier with every passing hour. Your special person carried it everywhere, unable to shake the feeling that opening it too soon would change everything forever. Then, without warning, the next sign appeared. They were walking through a crowded street when a complete stranger stopped, looked directly at your photograph on their phone, and quietly whispered, "So, the time has finally come." Before your special person could ask what they meant, the stranger disappeared into the crowd as quickly as they had appeared. The words echoed endlessly in their mind. This couldn't be another coincidence. Too many people who had never met you somehow recognized something they couldn't explain. Don't skip, because your special person finally realized the envelope was no longer meant to stay closed. With trembling hands, they broke the seal. Inside was a single page, written in handwriting that matched the mysterious journal perfectly. The first sentence made their heart race: "The one you seek has never been hidden from the world. Only their true purpose has been hidden." As they continued reading, the message explained that your life had quietly influenced countless decisions without your knowledge. People had changed their paths after meeting you. Others had abandoned harmful choices simply because of one conversation with you. Some walked away from betrayal. Others found hope again. None of them understood why. Neither did you. The letter claimed that your greatest strength was not something you possessed. It was something people awakened within themselves simply by crossing your path. But halfway through the page, the writing suddenly stopped, as if the author had been interrupted before finishing the final revelation. Your special person turned the page over, hoping for more, but found only one final line written across the back: "The last truth cannot be written, it must be witnessed." At that exact moment, the lights flickered, and their phone vibrated with a message from an unknown sender containing nothing except an address and a time for the following evening. There was no explanation, no signature, only one chilling instruction beneath it: bring the photograph. Come alone. The person waiting there has protected this secret longer than anyone alive, and tonight they will finally tell you why they were warned never to let you discover who you truly are. The following evening arrived far more quickly than your special person expected. Every instinct told them to ignore the message, yet something deeper urged them forward. They reached the address just as the sun disappeared below the horizon. It was an old library that had been closed for years, its windows covered in dust and silence. The front door opened before they could knock. Inside, a single lamp illuminated a long wooden table, and at the far end sat a woman with silver hair, patiently waiting as though she had known this meeting would happen all along. Without introducing herself, she looked at your photograph and quietly smiled. "So," she whispered, "the journey has finally reached the place where answers become impossible to hide." Your special person felt the room grow still. Somehow, this woman carried none of the fear the psychic had shown. Instead, she carried certainty. She invited your special person to sit and placed an ancient map across the table. It wasn't a map of cities or countries. It was a map of lives that had quietly crossed paths over many generations. Thin lines connected strangers who had never met, yet every path eventually pointed toward one symbol, the same symbol hidden behind your photograph. "This mark has never belonged to one family," the woman explained. "It appears whenever someone arrives whose presence changes the course of other people's stories." Your special person stared in disbelief. The woman traced one final line across the page until it stopped at your name. "This isn't about predicting the future," she continued. "It's about recognizing the person who unknowingly becomes the turning point in countless lives." For the first time since this mystery began, your special person stopped asking whether the psychic had been telling the truth. Instead, they began wondering why so many people had worked so hard to keep this knowledge hidden from you. The woman carefully folded the map and reached beneath the table, revealing a weathered journal that looked even older than the psychic's. Tucked inside was a faded photograph taken decades ago. As your special person brought it closer to the light, their breath caught. Standing in the background was someone whose face looked astonishingly like yours, not identical, but close enough to send a chill through the room. Before they could ask how that was possible, the woman gently closed the journal and said, "That photograph was taken long before you were born. The resemblance is only the beginning. The real secret isn't who that person was. It's the promise they made before they disappeared." The room fell into complete silence after those words. Your special person could barely take their eyes off the faded photograph. Every detail seemed impossible to explain. The same calm expression. The same unmistakable eyes. Even the small pendant around the stranger's neck looked identical to one you had worn countless times without ever knowing where it originally came from. "Who is this?" your special person finally asked. The woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she slowly placed the photograph beside yours. The similarities became impossible to ignore. Many people spend their entire lives searching for someone who resembles the past, she said quietly. But this is something entirely different. Stay with this story, because the next revelation made your special person question whether your life had been guided by unseen hands from the very beginning. The woman carefully unfolded another page hidden inside the old journal. It wasn't a prophecy. It was a promise written decades earlier. The faded words read, "When the bearer of the forgotten mark returns, do not reveal everything at once. Let them discover the truth through the live."